All right. Hey, welcome back. But have you ever thought your next breakthrough in performance might not be software? It might be the data center behind it. Today, we're unlocking the infrastructure powering the future where Pete Sacco started Intuva Solutions. Welcome to the show, Pete. How are you?
Thank you, John. I very much appreciate it. I'm doing well.
Awesome, brother. Well, hey, looking forward to this. In my commercial banking hat, we do a lot of the financing of these data
Yeah.
centers. And in Naperville, Illinois, there is literally a commercial being done and pushing this data center scenario. I forgot the name of the company. I think it starts with a K. That I'm not a part of the financing, but it's
Right.
interesting to kind of see while we're watching TV as a family, we're watching this Master Chef show that we love, and it's every single ad is about this data center being positive for the community, positive for the people, positive for the environment. So anyway, I'm not sure, how much
They are
you.
ubiquitous about society today, right? Good or bad. I mean, we hear about how they're using all the energy of the world, but they're also the underlying infrastructure powering the AI world, which is maybe the most profound technology that mankind has ever wrought.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, and I've recently gotten into managed IT service companies, and I'm starting to interview a lot of people in that space. So it's kind of interesting how private equity, managed IT, data center. So I'm really excited to have you on and looking forward to it. So usually we start with like, hey, Pete, what made you think of this idea
Sure.
into and where did that come from? I know you own multiple businesses, so we can
Yeah.
get into
So
all
why
of
don't we give it some context? Yeah. So
that.
my background, first of all, I studied quantum physics, right? So
Yeah.
that's where all of this starts from, right? I studied quantum physics, and though I love quantum physics and the idea of cosmology and all of that, honestly, I was only so good at the math. I was not going to be the world's next great physicist, right? And I didn't want to be a teacher, so I switched to engineering. Engineering, I'm 58, right? So I went to school and I really big my first thing designing power supplies and DC to DC converters for the military industrial complex during the first two Gulf Wars, right? And so that's where my government contacts came from. You know, big power supplies led to UPSs, uninterruptible power supplies, which led to the data center, and the rest they say is history. And today, I founded PTS almost 30 years ago. And PTS has really got three divisions. Intuva is my build company that designs and builds data center facilities for the likes of the federal government, large commercial enterprise, people like Pfizer, and the data center operators themselves. Right. And then I've got another design build company called Grid 7 that specializes on delivering energy, not just electric power, but today we're actually doing microgrids and gasification using hydrocarbons to convert to electricity at the building edge and combine those power sources to build resilient, cost effective, sustainable power. And then, like you just mentioned, I also own a company called Inspirica, which is an IT managed services. You know, the old vernacular used to be that we provided IT and cybersecurity. Today, we include AI in there. And I like to say that we're a managed intelligence partner, an MIP, for customers. And that today we do a lot of helping them understand how to use agentic AI to accomplish more with less people. Right. And so that's the big overview. And then I also own a line of data centers under my own brand called Gray Wolf Data Centers. It's a long story, but the answer is I think that the data center industry is going to go through yet another paradigm shift as we get out of the large language models and into inferencing at scale. So
Hmm.
you tell me the direction you want to go, and I'll be happy to. That's probably the one that's the most interesting is what's going to be the future of the data center because everybody knows data center. So what do you think your listeners would like to know? What's the evolution of data centers or the data center industry and how it's going to affect AI in the world?
Well, I think both, right?
Yeah.
So one, let's just take a small step back because I think it's always very intriguing. 58 years old, world of wisdom, books that you've authored. I
Yeah.
mean, influential in your industry. You didn't just get born that way, right? So a little bit of context, maybe 2, 3 minutes of like, hey, here's where I started. I kind of started in the corporate world. You said like you went from,
Yeah, no, I literally was born of a dad, and that was an entrepreneur. He was in the mortgage industry, right?
okay.
So let's just say that entrepreneurs are often born out of our environment, and so And I was married. My first marriage was very young. I dare I say, I had a much better relationship with my father-in-law than I did with my ex-wife, and he was extremely influential to me. He owned a very large trucking company, and so in Pennsylvania called Bell Trucking, and so so I learned so much from my dad and my ex-father-in-law for a long time. That being an entrepreneur turned out to be fairly inevitable for me. You know, I think as a CEO, I really wear a couple hats. And have learned now as being a 30 years of CEO and seeing many, many, economies and markets, first, you're either going to be the visionary of the company or you're going to be its integrator, but you really can't be both. I definitely fall on the visionary side. I have a vision and a sense of where the world is going, and that's good. Although I got to say that the AI industry caught the data center industry napping, and we've got a long way to go in the AI world. I like to say if AI was a clock, a 24-hour clock, we're only at 2 a.m. We've got 22 hours left to go, and man, we're not even going to recognize the world halfway through because it's the most profound technology that we've ever invented. But visionary is the first part of it. I would say the second important of a CEO is you need to be the master of your cash flow. That's a given. Third, you better own the culture. Long gone is the day of the Steve Jobs of fire the bottom 20% to whip the top 20% to do more with less. Today, that's not the case. Today, I have to be the inspirer, the motivator. I have to lead by example. I like to say, look, I'm happy to say those little pictures off my side, those are not my granddaughters. I'm 58 years old and I've got three little girls, 8, 6, and 3. Family 2.0. I've also got a 37-year-old son and 12, 10, and 2-year-old grandchildren. So I'm that guy. But, those little girls give me a different perspective. And I learned, even though I'm an engineer, I can't engineer them. I could
Mhm.
shepherd them through life. John, I would never be able to change you. We can't change anybody in our lives. I can't change any of my employees. But what I can be is I could be the best Pete Sacco that I can be. They could
Mhm.
see me putting in the work. They could see me being selfless and altruistic and doing the things that are not right for just Pete Sacco, but right for the world. And maybe if I elevate myself, I can elevate those around me. And that's the best I could hope for with my family, with my loved ones, and with my employees. And so I try to bring that and imbue that in my culture. And then, so lastly, is just that you need to be the master motivator of your organization. I do mine through storytelling. I've always had the gift to be able to tell a good story and make it stick and inspire people. I did it not just as a CEO, but I did it as a football coach, right? To convince people they are better than the sum of their parts. And so
Mhm.
that's what really owning a business is today. And that's kind of what I've learned over the last 30 years anyway.
It's interesting too, right? I heard of was it Jack Welch and Steve Jobs, like you mentioned, the whole 10%
Lee
and
Iacocca, yeah, absolutely.
I mean that they had that scenario of process, right? And as much as I mean, obviously, they built monster businesses, right?
No
So
doubt.
no shame, but yeah, the culture and the shift and things how they change it, and then 2, 3, 4 generations later, it's just different, right?
Yeah.
So and change is inevitable. So you have to be particular to the way that you said is that visionary, that also bringing in good training to people. Like you can't just put them out there and go, hey, go do it, right? Per se. So I love your space is very intriguing to me because I don't have that mind. I'm a numbers and people person, right?
Right.
So it's been interesting to kind of over the last probably 3 months, I've had managed IT, I've had, now data center, all these people. So like I said before we got on, it's a unique confluence of people coming together. And then I'm very interested in like private equity and and projects and deals. And I was running late, right? Because I was working on something and then I had to rush you, but it's always this need to be able to kind of see things from an outer perspective. So super excited to have you on. So, all right,
Thanks.
let's keep on going. So you start building your first company, right?
Yeah.
Um, it sounds like throughout that process, and once you got to an influx point, you either decided like, hey, here's another vertical that we can get into, or you bought something else, and I don't know the full story. So can you share, how did you start to then manipulate that, hey, owning like multiple businesses and placing leaders within those businesses?
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is, right? It's finding the right people. I definitely, through my career, I'm a product of both, let's say, Vistage, the ability to get my training through Vistage, or strategic coach. I know Dan Sullivan, I'm one of the strategic coach guys, and I continue to, stay involved with them today. He's written some of the greatest business consulting books in the history of mankind, right? Who Not How, and The Gap and the Gain, and a whole bunch of books that are words to live by as a CEO. But in every business, it goes through growths and plateaus and growths and plateaus. And honestly, the team that you're going to build from 1 to 1 million is going to be the different team from 1 to 10 million.
Yeah. So
So
you were saying, I mean, 1 to 10.
yeah, the team that you're going to have from 0 to 1 million is going to be different than the team that you have to assemble, and the capability in your tech stack different from 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 100, right? It changes all throughout. Along the ways, I just keep working to find the right people, give them the chance to work autonomously, to be master of their craft, and be a part of something greater than themselves, build a legacy, right? And then give them the tools and the roadmap. The beauty of, or the amazing thing about right now, is the tool set is amazing. Now, let's define AI with where it is right now. I mean, today we're awash with large language models, the GPTs, ChatGPT, Claude, DeepSeek, right? All Perplexity and so on. And what they are today are really, really good pattern recognition machines on everything that we've ever written, copyrighted or not. Let's just set that one aside, right? We broke every copyright law, but we're not going backwards, right? And so we've basically taken all of human knowledge, language, and public information, and we've dumped it and we trained on it. It's no mystery that as human beings, right? The subject of my next book, or the book that I just published, The Bridge, is this: human intelligence has polarity, right? Like temperature. Temperature is degrees. You're either very hot or very cold, but it's all temperature. Intelligence is also the same way. On one end of the spectrum, we have perfect analytical knowledge and information, the ability to compute, the ability to derive an answer from perfect information. AI will do that better than we've ever could have done, hands down, every day to Tuesday. We are going to stop being our own calculator. Okay. But on the other end of the spectrum is human discernment, the ability to make wise decisions when there is no right answer, when there is imperfect information, when there is value judgments, when everything is screaming yes and the answer is no. That's human intuition. I'd actually argue that is not derived of our mind. I'm going to get a little spiritual on you, and I'm going to say that's derived of consciousness. And consciousness, I do not believe to be local. I believe consciousness is fundamental. I believe consciousness is the perfect order of information of the world. We'll leave that to the mystics, right? I bill myself as a modern day mystic. But what I like saying is that idea of human discernment is the exact opposite pole of perfect analytics. And that AI is going to force mankind, not willingly, it's going to force mankind to become more discerning. And we, over time, and actually because we now live in an exponential world, not a linear world, in very few generations, we are going to become the discernment machines to level set against the perfect analytical engine that will become AI. And we will learn to live synonymously with both those intelligences. That was a very long-winded way to say, as a CEO, the tool set right now is a pattern recognition machine. But what we're going to see in 2026 is going to be the age of the agentic AI system. If AI could deliver us the words to write the perfect sales copy, the words to write the perfect marketing campaign, agentic AI is going to take any process that is a rote process that requires precision and accuracy and timing, and it is going to execute it flawlessly. As an example, instead of writing sales copy for the perfect sales campaign, you're literally going to have agents that you say, please launch the perfect campaign to my ideal customer profile for my product set given this. And bam, it's going to execute that entire thing as a campaign of agents doing the work. Now, to that end, as an entrepreneur, John, I need that in all my organizations. So do I wait for that to happen? No. The entrepreneur on me built a company in the Philippines called Astral Business Solutions. And that's what Astral does, delivers the automated AI readiness and marketing campaigns that I need for all my businesses, my IT managed services or my managed intelligence business, my data center company, my Gray Wolf data center. So it is the underlying. Today, we have at our disposal the ability to build not just the tools, but the companies that we need to deliver the automated services that we need. And it's only going to get better from there. Look, I own construction companies. Do you think I don't think for one moment that by 2035, I bet you the world is awash with not 1 million, not 1 billion, but somewhere in the order of magnitude of 10 billion humanoid autonomous robots that will do all of the jobs that you can do, from pick things up to put things down, to do your laundry, to take care of loved ones, to walk your dog, grow your plant, cook your food. And it's not going to do it a little bit better than you, thousands of times better than you. And it's going to change the world. We're going to live in a world, this technology, here's the end game. Let me give you the picture of what the world looks like by 2050. We need you to do nothing because value will cease to be financial. And the only thing that will be is how much compute is in the world. And all basic services, education, healthcare, housing, food will all be delivered as a basic service to people. All value will be built automatically and robotically, and you will not have to do anything. And most of the world will live off of some form of a universal basic income, as we learned we never had to do. We had to be selfless and altruistic and helping one another, be discernment engines, not calculating robot machines that do things. So if we keep that perspective that we're going to get there, and by the way, why would we doubt it? Think back in history. Has there ever been a technology that wasn't first looked at with fear, that didn't ultimately help the world? We could go back to Gutenberg. When Gutenberg invented the printing press, they said it was going to spread heresy and chaos throughout the world. You can't possibly democratize knowledge. That's for the elites. The elites will teach the peasants. But it didn't. What did it do? It ushered in the period known as Enlightenment. And we learned that perhaps democratization of knowledge was a good thing. During the Industrial Revolution, workers broke the machines because they said it's going to steal our jobs. Sound familiar? That's exactly what we're saying about AI right now. But it doesn't want to steal our jobs. It's not meant to steal our jobs. The Industrial Revolution elevated millions of people out of poverty. AI is going to transform the world in ways that we cannot yet imagine because the speed that it's happening is exponential, no longer linear. Electricity was going to change our circadian rhythm. The internet and social media was going to destroy our ideals. Remember when we went to school and they said you can't take a calculator and take math class because you'll forget how to do long division? Well, it didn't, right? It didn't ruin math. Math enables us to do great, unbelievable things. The beauty, here's why, John, I believe I was built for this moment in time. I was built for this moment in time because here I was born a guy of the Generation X, the generation that invented most of the technologies underpinning the now technical world, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was born at a time that I remember what it was like not to have technology, and now we're immersed in technology. And so the things that we have before us, I know that we are only good things to look forward to because no technology has ever done anything except allow mankind to flourish. Our children's children will look back at us and they're not going to understand. They're going to be like, let me get this right. You used to wake up every day, go to a job that you really kind of liked, but you really didn't like, and you spent time with people that you wouldn't have normally spent time with anyway, not the loved ones that you tried to build a life with. And you did this because you had to earn money in order to pay for basic goods and services. And they're not going to even, we're going to look at us like we were cavemen, like we looked at cavemen, like how could anybody ever live like that? Except it won't be 1,000 years in the future. It will be 10 years in the future, equivalent to 100 years. And 100 years is going to look like 1,000 years. Now use that perspective, go backwards 1,000 years, and what did humanity look like? And that's only 100 years in our future. And I would venture to say that we are now living in a world that my generation at 58 might be the first generation that doesn't just outlive my parents and my grandparents. I'm going to vastly outlive my parents and grandparents. And my little girls, hell, Oval Harari wrote a book called Homo Deus, and I love his opening line. Man spent the last millennia trying not to die by disease, famine, and war. And man will spend the next millennia in the AI era living as gods and living forever. That's what we have to look forward to. Health span and longevity are going to ride right alongside each other. My 3-year-old today, if AI does nothing for healthcare, which there's no way that it's not, if it did nothing, the average lifespan in the United States when she's old enough will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 105 to 110 years old. And that's if nothing happens. She's going to virtually live forever.
Wow. So what it's this went to a totally different
I
direction.
got it. That's the world I live in because
No,
people
I
just
love it.
can't
No, your
fathom
vision,
how much different.
yeah, your vision is out here. And you know what they say, right? In order to bring people as a leader, you have to have a vision this big so they can fit inside of it, right?
100%.
Yeah. So I love what you're saying. So, all right, let's take it this a couple of different things.
Yeah.
One thing that I read recently, I think it was Anthony Robbins saying like, hey, and it's this longevity thing, right? And it's pertinent to business because obviously, like anything, we've got some great leaders right now. Some have died, and we talked about it off camera. Some people that had certain types of philosophies for business and what have you. But Anthony Robbins had said something like where in the next 5, 10 years, he believes that, like you said, if you were gonna live to 78, the average lifespan of a current male,
Yeah.
probably gonna live to like 95, like no matter what, like that's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, 95 to 105. But the only challenging part I have to that is, you know, it almost seemed like he was saying, okay, if you make it the next 5, 10 years and you're healthy, you will literally be able to live at that current state for like 30 more years.
Yeah. That's the difference between longevity and health span,
Okay.
right? If I ask 10 people, do you want to live to be 120? 8 of 10 are going to go, no way.
No thanks.
Why? Because the old paradigm is by the time I hit 80, I'm going to use that one. I don't know that number, but 80, I'm no longer as vivacious as I am now, right? At 58, right? 58, I'm living my best life right now,
I
right?
love
So, that's it. I'm living my best life right now. But look, what Tony said, I actually have met Tony a couple times, right? We're members of Abundance 360, Peter Diamandis's group. And so Tony says, look, I don't care if I live 100 or a 90 or, 120. What I care about is that I am as energy filled and vivacious the day before I die as I am, at any time I live. But that's where we're going because health span and longevity are closing the gap. That's what we need to do. Because if I asked you the question now, John, if I could guarantee you that 120 years old, you'd still be playing tennis at 119, would you sign up for that? And they're like, well, but I'd be worried about having enough money. Okay, if I could tell you that you'll have enough basic services and everything that you'll always be able to survive. The world will take care of you and that you'll be vivacious. Sure, I'll sign up for that. Everybody would. That's the world, John, that we are creating. AI will deliver human discernment. Human discernment will make the wise decisions that we will become selfless and altruistic, and that our children's children will ensure that the world is delivering a place that's better from whence it came. And in the end of this, we deliver post scarcity. We deliver everything that we ever. It's Star Wars, Star Trek. Have you ever seen Star Trek when they're up on the Star Trek Enterprise? There's never any conversation about how much anything costs. They ask the computer delivers. That's literally the world we're going to live in. We're going to live in a world where everything we want, there is no want, there is no crime because there is no want, because there is no want, because there is no need, because everything we need is delivered to us as a basic service.
So it's interesting. What made me think, what I was thinking about is, 50 years ago, because we didn't, 100 years ago, because we didn't know how to take care of our mouth, as an example. I'm a big, like, brush your teeth with my girls, right? Hey, brush your teeth, keep your
Yep.
mouth and the germs and clean. I don't get sick a lot at all. And it's funny, it's mental, I think, and it's physical, right? Things that I do but I've been trying to, enrich my daughter's mind about that way of thinking. So the reason I bring that up is because it's interesting, 50 or 100 years ago, men only lived till, like, when Social Security was a thing that they started,
Yep.
it was because you were only going to live till 61, 62. Now we're living 78, 80, right? And then you're saying
Yep.
now we're going to live 101, 105, 120, or maybe longer. Um, Interesting. Interesting. Okay. All right. So,
Yeah. Do the financial planning for that.
well, look, the only thing I differ on, and it's at this very moment of what my knowledge base is. I just turned 50 in December. So I'm a Gen X kid, and
Yep.
there's a ton of memes and things that are out there like, yeah, we're the toughest generation because, yeah, baby boomers did X, which is awesome. But we actually went through that two, like you said, the two developments of no technology to technology,
Yeah.
and no coddling in our world.
Nope.
So, but the only thing I'm trying to think of, and it has a human aspect to it. I'm a faith-based guy, like, will human beings still have what we have as our embedded natures, even though over the next 5, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is that you're saying, right? It will change the dynamic. So will we just adapt in your mind? Our nature will then take over with this new technology, and that now we participate together, and some of these ailments that have us thinking like, hey, I'm right now, my eighth grade daughter is going to a private high school called Bennett, and it's 15,000 more than I pay right now. Like so these,
Yep.
I'm already thinking like, all right, I need to adjust this, I need to take a equity line here, and okay, here's how I'm going to do this, here's, because I'm a banker, right? Like, so I think that way.
Yep.
But you're saying, oh, in the future. So that's the only thing I have a, I guess, challenge with, and I'd love your perspective because you have this vision that is, very big. Um, in that scenario, does it take away from us entrepreneurs, us people that have loved to compete in capitalism and stuff like that, that I personally love? So,
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And so, wow.
Bianco and Peter Sacco starts in 15 minutes.
Sorry about that. My AI is keeping me on schedule.
well,
And so it's so wow, there's so many ways that we could take that. And so, all right, let's talk about education first, right? I'm on the board of my university, Fairleigh Dickinson University here in New Jersey. The Olson's, I'm on the board of the Olson School of Engineering and Computer Science, and I sit with Dr. Avaltroni, our president, and we talk about what is the role of the university. I can tell you what it's not. It's not education any longer. I can tell you that the education you're going to get at Fairleigh Dickinson is exactly the same, in the engineering school is exactly the education you're going to get at MIT and some other engineering school that's maybe not as ranked as high as Fairleigh and MIT or Stanford, right? So if it's not education, what is it? Well, it's likely the relationships that you're going to build and the mentorship and that is what really the role of the university is going to be. I'd actually honestly say I've gotten to meet Sal Khan, the Khan Academy guy. Look, you could learn anything you want right now on Solid. Go to his latest Khan Amigo, and you say want to be a CPA. You could take a series of tests on Khan Academy. It will evaluate your knowledge, tell you where you need to study. You could tell it how long you want before you're taking the CPA exam. It will lay out the curriculum for you, tell you how much you need to study every single day, evaluate you along your way. You've never entered a school, you've never paid anybody a dime, and it guarantee, you're not guaranteed, but if you put the work in, you will pass that CPA exam anywhere in that prescribed amount of time. Except 20 years from now, we won't ever need to be a CPA again because all of that will be taken care of agentically by something, which leaves us the space to think about what are the things that really human beings do. I'm working on a TEDx talk right now. I'm actually waiting for a venue to pick it up. And I talk about in there, the world as we know it is about to end. And here's why that's a great thing. We need to stop looking at AI as the rival and recognize it is going to be the mirror that we need to use to recognize that we need to stop evaluating our self-worth as to that we need to do something, we need to prioritize, we need to schedule. You're saying you love to do that. You're saying you love to do that because that's what you identify your worth over. But what if your worth is actually something far greater than that? What if it didn't need a job in order to have self-worth? What if it was to be altruistic? What if it was to be selfless? What if it was to be a person of the world with a goal to make the best possible John, to elevate yourself and your loved ones around you, to leave this place, whatever this place is, a better place than when you found it? That gives you a whole different perspective of what the priorities are. That doesn't mean we don't need to plan for sending our kid to school right now, because that's the way it works right now. But let's have a vision that our future is far better than our past. And let's work to that picture that it's all going to be okay. No matter how crappy my life got at any given point, and it looked like it was just burning down, it all turned out to be okay. It all turned out to be okay. Do you ever notice that when you ask somebody, it's funny, there's a guy, Steven Pinker, wrote a book called Enlightenment Now. And I loved Enlightenment Now. He basically said, if you could live in any other time in human history, where would you want to live and why? If you ask 100 people, you're going to get 90 answers that sound something like this. Well, I would want to live, pick that year because it was easier, it was faster, it was simpler, people cared more, people did the. He proves in 400 pages that if you want to live at any other time other than right now, you're not just a little bit wrong, you're very, very, very wrong. Because we are so much better across every facet of humankind. Health span, longevity, the amount of calories they got. You name the category, we're not just a little bit better, we are monstrously better. And if that's the case, what makes us think for one moment that our children's children's children, even though it looks like we're burning down the economy, we're burning down the world, we're melting our environment, what makes us think for one moment that our children's children's future isn't going to be so much brighter, so much more flourishing, so much more enriching than we are right now? There's no way it's not possible.
I'm jacked. I love it. I love it. I did not expect this conversation, but
I
it is
told you, dude, my
real.
friends look at me like a bit of a unicorn. At 58 years old, I should be rounding third base, getting ready to slide into home. And I feel like I was built for this moment. I was a quantum physicist who all of a sudden became a CEO who at 58 years old realized he's playing with the cool kids again because he's a part of inventing the technology that's going to transform in the world. And at the same time, I have had the human experience to discover that consciousness is likely fundamental to the universe and that we are something, there is an existence far greater than ourselves. That's actually the subject of my book, The Bridge, and it was explored a little bit in Living in Bliss. The idea of understanding that there's something far greater than ourselves that exists in the universe, and that we've now invented the technology that is going to help explain The very nature of our existence in this universe is absolutely fascinating to me. And the reason why I say I'm the bridge is that I come from the quantum physics world, building AI, but I've observed consciousness itself to know that all of the ancient mystics of saying a universal connectedness were likely correct. They just didn't have the science of the time. Guess what we have today? The science of the time. I can tell you, I spent a lot of time following my physicist brethren. You would be blown away at some of the things that they are finding right now in the nature of the universe. Here, I'll give you a little one. I'm maybe the third most famous engineer coming out of Fairleigh Dickinson. Number one was Greg Olson, for who the school is named. Number two is a guy named Bill Ox, who spent 35 years as the project manager for the James Webb Space Telescope. Okay? James Webb Space Telescope. Everybody during Hubble, we believed that the universe was about 12.8 billion years old before the Big Bang, right? And we looked back. Hubble could look back about 6 billion years of light. So we built James Webb Space Telescope. It was going to be able to look back, or it looks back about 10 billion years, 2.8 billion years before the origin of the perceived origin of the universe. And when you're going to do that, you have to make a hypothesis. Well, there should be this number of galaxies. They should have this level of order. They should have this level of structure of energy. And then when we sent James Webb up, the very first pictures that came back, we weren't off. We were off by trillions to one. In other words, there's no way the universe is 12.8 billion years old. The early estimates it's at least 25 billion years old, and it's now there's all kinds, because we're no longer we're back to hypothesis. Is it one Big Bang? Was it multiple Big Bangs? Is it a big bounce that's been going like this? We're back to not knowing. Let's remember, we absolutely are positive we know until we realize that we don't know.
Mhm.
And so that's the beauty of the world we're living in. When we spend up the Romanov in 2027, it's going to look back to 12.8 billion years old, and they're going to look, holy crap. It's just we're seeing, who knows what's going on now. We're answering with AI those very questions right now as to the origins of mankind, the origins of the universe, with greater precision than ever before. And it's going to all happen on our watch.
Love it. I will say, look, I wrote this book, the 4A Formula, right?
Yep.
Assess, and I'm assessing in real time right now what you're saying, right? I'm literally going, okay, well now, thank God I started this podcast 5 years ago, because 5 years later I'm meeting a Pete Sacco, and now I'm connected to him, right? So that's alignment. And
Yep.
then number three, I'm gonna have to take accountability, look in the mirror and go, okay, what is something that I need to change? What is something
What
I'm
is your role in improving the world?
100%? And then last one is go take action, right? Bottom line. So I
I
love
love it.
this conversation has been so blessed. Man, this is awesome. I do want to, just from a business perspective, I want to leave the Go4CEO community with something that I always do, because I
Yeah.
love the perspective of, a 20-year-old, female entrepreneur to a 70-year-old, whatever. I've had them all on this podcast, and different genres, industries, all that type of stuff. So we end it with CEO, right? So it's C
Sure.
for client experience, and you could take it from a holistic perspective of all your companies. When you think about C, client experience, and what that means from a value proposition to do business with any one of your companies, what would be a 30, 60-second high level on that? Value prop,
Authenticity.
client experience.
Authenticity, right? Because AI, it seems like AI is kind of delivering the message that everybody wants to hear. But what really is closing the deal is authenticity. I want to know that you're not BSing me. I want to know that it's a real person behind doing this stuff, and it's not some AI tool, robotic, blah, blah, blah. Even though the whole world would rather still talk to their machine rather than talk to people. But when it comes down to it, authenticity between individuals, what's really moves. And again, it goes back to my idea of that discernment. So look, don't shy away from figuring out who you really are. Right? I explore all of this in my previous book. When I could consult and coach other people, determine what you're really good at. What are your superpowers? And then in a very Dan Sullivan kind of way, focus your days on doing those things, right? If it's not in your superpowers, find a who, right? Find somebody else that does that. Find an agentic AI that can actually replicate that. Find a partner that can deliver the value that you can't. Focus on the things that you do really well. You'll drive great joy into your life. And you know what? You better find a way, if you want a life of fulfillment, if you want a life of fulfillment, you need to do the things that give you great joy. You're going to have 70,000 thoughts in a day. If 50,000 of them are good thoughts and 20,000 are bad thoughts, guess what? You're building resiliency. But if 50,000 are crap thoughts and 20,000 are good, get what? You're creating your own misery, right?
Yeah.
We create our own reality. Know that.
No doubt. I love that. I love that. So the second one is engagement. And I think it's a very humanistic thing of how the answers come out. So I'd love to hear your point of view, especially with your background and the way that you do things. But when I would say, or when I ask, hey, engagement, how do people engage with Pete Sacco? What do you prefer to do? Do you like to have breakfast, lunch, dinners? Are you a events guy? Do you like to
So, you
take
know, it's
retreats?
fascinating how that's evolving over time. Take a look at right now, the whole influencer movement of the world, right? I had a moment about a year and a half ago. Somebody came to me, it was a PR or a marketing expert who came to me and says, Pete, this is the time. This is the time. You're 58 years old. You've broken more shit than any 20-year-old has ever done. You need to tell the stories. You need to begin to educate, right? We all go through phases. First, we just want to fit in because being different sucks. Then we find our voice. Third, when you're at my stage, you realize you're never stopping learning. But you know what? It's your obligation to begin to teach now, right? To to inform the next generation. But you know what? I'm leveraging their tools. I've decided that here's how I build my engagement. I built PeteSacco.com. It's my personal brand. It talks about everything that I do. I'm an open book. My kids know who I am. My grandkids know who their grandfather is. The one talking about spirituality and doing plant medicines while being a CEO and a cutting edge venture capitalist in transforming AI. Right? He's the bridge. He's the guy immersed in the AI world, but he understands spirituality. He's an entrepreneur technologist, but he's also a modern day mystic. He understands that the world is a complicated place, but if we all know that it's going to be okay, then guess what? We're going to build it to be okay. So engage, put yourself out there, build your personal brand, because your personal brand will carry the message of the authentic you into everything that you do. And since we live in an intent-based world, people looking for, hey, I need to find a guy who understands AI and how it's going to transform consciousness. Guess who he's going to find? This guy, right? This guy on your podcast, on my podcast, and my Forbes article, and my book, The Bridge, and all of the things that I do in keynote speaking. And maybe one of those guys is somebody who needs IT managed services. Holy crap, I didn't know he owns an IT managed service company. Or, hey, I need a keynote speaker. Holy crap, did you see that guy on John's podcast? He would be a great keynote speaker. That's why we build what we do.
I love it.
What's the last one? What's the O?
Last one is operational excellence. Sorry. So, if you think about just leave us with a couple tools that are impacting your business the last year and a half
Yeah,
for operational
easy.
excellence.
2026 is going to be the year of the agentic AI. Find the 3 processes in your company that require precision, accuracy, timing, and multiple steps that need to be done exactly the same, that will have the most impact to your operation. And then figure out who in your world can help you build an agentic AI system, like this guy, through Astral, that we could help you build an agentic AI system that will automate that process such that the people you have doing the work right now become the people managing the agentic AI system to take what they do and build the agent based on the human being who is doing it as good as they can and now do it perfect. And so you're going to want to build that agentic AI in those systems that impact your business the most. Hey, I'll give you, for instance, some tactical things like going on in my world right now. I'm an engineering company. Do you think for one moment I don't believe that inside 5 years, I'm going to be able to go, hey, computer, I need to design a 100,000 square foot data center of 2.8 gigawatts and it's going to be using Google's tensor processing unit. And today that unit is processing 400 kilowatts per rack. I need 500 racks of this. Design me the data center that does that. And it's going to go, and you know what I'm going to get? Stack of papers of exactly the perfectly designed, done to architectural standards, done to engineering standards, better than any human being could ever possibly calculate. If you don't think that's going to be plausible in the next 5 years, you're not just wrong, you're very, very, very wrong. But it's still going to need a person that understands what should we be asking, what is the right question to ask in the first place. And that's the job of humans, to become more human.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, Go4CEO community, this was a masterclass of just, disruption, right? Change, understanding, bridge, these words that impact your life on a daily basis. So, Pete, share with them how they can get a hold of your companies and
I appreciate it, brother. Find me on PeteSacco.com, PeteSacco.com. PeteSacco.com will lead you to all of the different companies, I think, investments that I'm doing, everything that I've got going on in my world. If you're looking for speaking engagements or books I'm working on and things that I'm doing. John, I really appreciate meeting guys like you to advance this. Let's improve the world one step at a time.
Hey, thank you. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel right now. All right. You get guys like Pete
click the button
on the channel and learning big, big things. Thank you so much for coming on, Pete.